Hey guys, this is my second lesson with the Pro. I'm hoping you know all about that. And in the second lesson, we have what's probably going to be three sections. There were three games I played against Crazy Stone during our lesson where I asked questions. Video one was the first game. This is the second game. Crazy Stone set at 5 down. You see it there. And let's get going. I'm white. Here, I uh, I generally just play A and B if it's a high level game because I don't want some big shot getting a moyo on me. But I assumed that C and D was just fine, and he agrees. Yeah, of course, C and D are just fine. And he also doesn't like his opponent getting a moyo on him. A and B are both fine. So I approached. A few things here were particularly interesting. Let's start with this Joseki. Okay, we all know this. And black plays away. Okay, bottom left, everyone's fine. Now let's look. Not that white's about to play this. I'm not saying that white's about to play this, but we can see the capture. And as we see the capture, check out the Aji at A. This becomes a perfect vital spot, and the entire black group is really quite awkward. So the shape is bad. So white playing this move is fine because the end result to here, black shape has negative aspects that we can abuse in the future. I'm trying to make it a very general statement. Now, let's bring it up to the fourth line. Same thing. Now let's look at the same continuation. Uh-oh, black has perfect shape. So if black A is lacking and we like it, and black B is not lacking, as a matter of fact, it's particularly nice in this possible future, then he says we just don't play B because we know it's less than A. I'm sorry, we don't play. Let's go to the move. This move. When black's at A, we don't play B because the continuations leaves black with excellent shape. While if black's on the third line, that's not the case. A bit more clarification. Now, I've been playing this move on purpose for a long time, at least a year, maybe two, because it seemed a bit funny to me, and yet I saw a person I respect play it. But it bothers me, so I've been playing it looking for someone to punish me or for me to see a punishment that I can use against someone else, and I've never found one. So when he showed me, I'm like, oh, so I'm glad for that. Secondly, he says this possible future doesn't hold great meaning. So B is fine, perhaps even at a professional level. But, it's like a half a point mistake. But since we can see it's a mistake and AI agrees it's a mistake, then why would we play it? Even though it's just an extremely minor mistake, still, why play it? So hopefully that made some sense. It was very interesting to me, and I was very glad to have that explanation because I've been looking for it. Okay, so we're here. I played B. He went fourth line. If not A, now you know me. I've been playing A for a long time. Like for instance, if I were to play here, I've been playing the settling move rather than the growing grandiose idea. The idea being that this white move suggests area 1 but doesn't take it. It suggests area 2 but doesn't take it. While this move settles and takes points. It's practical, it's here and now. And I've been working with this idea of, well, it's a full value move, and that's all I need. I'm not going to go for large, grandiose things, as good as they are and as appropriate as they are. So, if not A, then what? Well, you got your C, right? I mean, everyone knows C, and yeah, growing the bottom, and that's wonderful. Okay. A little more practical, hit D first. This is a well-known AlphaGo move, and then black can play away, and white has a very steady group here. With the next move for either player being perhaps early in game, because it's white and black are both fine, so why play here? Well, because it's big. Well, not as big as other things. Okay. So that's a regular Joseki. And he says there's nothing wrong with B. And I had a lot of questions about B. So we went in this direction. Okay. We're caught up and we continue. Black has two choices. Our conclusion is going to be if C's in place, we can't play A. I believe I have that correct, but hang in there with me. We're going to find out. In this game, Crazy Stone did play here. Just played normal, right? We all know this. Right off, A's in the wrong spot. And just all for clarification here, let's Tawari. Tawari means to change the order of the moves. So let's remove A and now black to play. Well, it's certainly not going to play at A. That's way too close to the wall. Perhaps over here or somewhere else. So this shape is already bad for black. Okay, makes sense. Therefore, since C's in place, we don't want that, black doesn't want that move to become over-concentrated. Therefore, just play at B, and we'll look at that. This is just like everyone knows, and now black plays away to wherever he wants to play to. And it's a normal opening. Okay. So we've looked at C, A, D. The game continues with B, and black plays the wrong direction. Black plays this way, which I'm glad for because it brings up some more interesting questions. Okay. Which do I? Let's look at a principle. Okay, let's say white wants to live, which let's not get into details right now. This is actually wrong, but I just want to get to a certain principle. In my mind, if I'm choosing to live, I want to first create two weaknesses for black and then live. He's like, no, don't do it. I'm like, why in the world wouldn't you create two weaknesses first? And let's say black fixes. So black gets A, which is a nice, strong, high stone. So black gained something. Well, white gained B. Well, B is not very meaningful, while A is a little more meaningful. So white didn't gain anything. I'm so used to, if I have the opportunity to make him weak, to just do it. He says, so instead, the principle is just fix, and then he can fix. And he didn't get that high move. He might take that high move, but then his weakness is still there. Okay, so my habit of make him weak, then live is like, okay, not a good idea. Now we get on with better ideas. The first one surprised me. He says, oh, just play B. B, just think of it is Joseki. And I'm not used to that being Joseki. So, okay. He says, well, there's two choices, A and B for black. Let's look at A. White is now about to die. White lives. Black fixes. White extends. Making a nice light group on the bottom. Black has no interest at all in capturing those stones, right? So we just play lightly and everything's fine. Okay, end of story on that variation. Then we have B. B's better for the outside, but it gives white this move, which adds an extra component to life, makes life easier. So black plays B. White simply plays lightly. And there's a cut at A now. And it's something of a nasty cut, or potentially nasty. So let's say that black fixes it. Because D1 is still available, white's actually alive still, and we can go play a big move. At which point I'm saying, wow, this A was very useful. I mean, we got great information. We made him commit to what he wanted to do when we played accordingly. So to me, this is a new move that I plan on using all the time. I had no idea that was Joseki. So excited about that. Okay. In the game, black played down, played up, and black comes in, which he thought was a reasonable move for black, because it kind of takes care of the cut somewhat while doing more than just fixing the cut. And go take. Okay. One might, so now we're going to look at white's move. One might have a knee-jerk reaction. I would. If it's a fast game, I'd play E without any thought whatsoever. Why? Because it's a big area for white. It's a free move. It's Aji. I'm taking away the. You hear my dog in the background going crazy. This must be some delivery. So it's something of a natural move. But if we ask, well, what's the main purpose? The main purpose is black has actual thickness. Since it's over-concentrated, we can call it thickness 10 lines high. So E is all about not letting black attack K4, the marked stone. Well, if you want to nip that in the bud, which is not necessary, you can play away. But if you want to nip it in the bud, which is my personal style, I don't like him get attacking me. So let's, for instance, let's look at B, which he says, no, it's not a mistake. Black will take Sente and, for instance, start attacking. Okay, well, now we have to do some fancy footwork and answer some hard questions. Don't let him get too much at A, and don't let him get too much when he's going to get Sente to play B. There's a lot to do now. Now, it's all doable, but I'm rather lazy and I don't like working that hard. So just A, boom, Moyo's gone. If he chooses to fight, we now have equity. We can just fight back. However, I meant to put it here just to paint the picture of, black's weaker than white is. So this takes care of the Moyo, supports the stone, and is in itself a really big move. C's fine, D's fine. Okay, onward. This is my move. Here's another move I've been playing for over a year now, because I don't know it very well. In the old days, it was A with an occasional B, and if you're in a funny mood, you play C. You just never used to say C, D at all. It was really quite unusual. And AlphaGo plays C or D 98% of the time. So I'm getting used to D. What's it mean? What can I expect? How do I play the variations? Okay. Moving forward. Black plays here. When I see these three stones, my first thought is black's next move, I'm going to have a hard time in that entire quadrant. So it's time to come in. He's like, yeah, of course. My next thought, B and C, too hard. He's like, yeah, of course. Therefore, A, let me just, let's go A, D, or E, those three moves. A is the normal one, everyone knows. 3-3 lives so comfortably. The D will also live comfortably, but is saying the left side is bigger, which is true in this case. And E will live easily and says the top is bigger, which it is not in this case. He says in either case, A or D are both fine. He says, as he read it out, says D doesn't seem to create any problems for black, so may as well play A. And since I don't like reading out, and I think the left is over concentrated already, I would just play A, hoping black took it because it's over concentrated. Okay. Hopefully that made some sense. We continue. Regular Joseki. And here, sometimes we play H, sometimes we don't. It's never necessary for life. I don't think now's the time to explain when and where we use which and how come. But rather, let's just look at the conclusion, which is if this move is too big, then go ahead and play it as white. In this case, it's a tiny little top area. Doesn't mean anything. Also, if white plays it, is black forced to respond because the turn's too big? And in this case, no. I can't Hane, I have to play here. I gained what? 3-4 points, and black gained even more influence. And the Aji here, this is the Aji point, is not impressive, at least yet. So I don't care if black plays it. It's Gote if I play it, so don't play it. Okay. We already talked about black G, that if black plays there, there's equity, so we're not concerned about that lonely stone. He says F, which is F is bigger than E because the top has low stones. White can come in. It's just the top's small. So F's okay, but that means black's going to be getting a moil and white has to deal with it, which again is difficult. Some people love the extra cash and just, I'll reduce you. And that's all good and fine, but we generally consider, let's just make sure his moyo doesn't get out of control. That's where A, B, C, and D come in. Which one do we choose? How can we tell? Okay. Let's start with the old idea. I'm going to pass just so we can see the board a bit more clearly. We're told to draw a line from A to the next high point, which is B, and draw the line, right? We draw that line and play on it or to the right of it. Now, you all know that. Next, we could say, well, actually, this is the real line. What, maybe like that or something. It's hard to get a straight edge with little triangles. So sometimes it's hard to know, well, which line do we use? Okay, so I'm going to go back now. So that's a way that like everyone knows. But he brought up another way of looking at it, which I hadn't before. Okay, here we go. Considering all this space and considering the cut at E16 and considering the gap, which doesn't play into it too much, and considering all this wide, it's so hard for black to encircle, that's a lot of options for white. Which of these four moves, how far in can you come and feel pretty comfortable? And to me, the answer is C. And he says, yeah, that's where he'd play. And we're going to play this through, and you'll see how many options there were. I was a little surprised, and I had to get a better perspective. I did ask about A. He says, the way he phrased it, it's probably okay. Some people like to take risks. So in his mind, it's a risk. And he's fighting and you're fighting and white's taking the risk, and some white players love that. He says, if you think C is, I just don't see enough options there. He says, then back off one, play D. Much easier. So that perspective was meaningful to me. Okay. I played C. Crazy Stone attacks, which I was very grateful for, because having that white stone be dealt with comfortably, I used to be able to do pretty well, but that was 15 plus years ago. I've done now with all my teaching over the years, it's just I've gotten all fuzzy, and you don't have students that play at the really high sharp levels. So I've gotten lazy for sure. Okay. So he said he would probably play B, but A's fine. I would play A because B to me is riskier. It may be in an appropriate way of talking about B. Deeper to me is riskier. So I played A, and we had some good questions come. Oh, I did ask about C because C is the only move we're looking at that actually runs out. And generally, well, why don't you run out? And his answer was, well, first of all, this is a very heavy move. It doesn't create options. It's just a single step. Secondly, if you draw the line, it's actually doesn't break the line. Black gets to the black and black are touching. White has not broken that line. So it's not even a getting out move. So if black goes to surround, right, it's like you might not get out. It can easily become quite difficult. So it's a heavy move. Okay, so now we're going to look at A. Here is where it really came home. He ran in this direction. And I had to kind of double take because my only thought is I want to get out of Dodge. Let's get out of here. Let's get some air. Why would you run into the black area? Well, this gets back to this move. If you don't see the options C has in that direction, then play back at D where it's safer. It's like, oh. So at this point, you look at C going, I'm seeing all these options. C is safe if he starts surrounding me. If not, I'll back off to D. And if I'm like, oh, there's just so many options, I'm going to play A. Great, then play A. Okay, so boom. So playing here, I understand it. And in a friendly game, I'd probably play it. But in a serious game, I might not play this. Ken has a sense of craziness to it. But he brought out how it's not crazy at all. Okay. One thing he pointed out, he says, well, let's say black just starts surrounding you. He says, if you go for the shape point, he says, it's probably Sente because you're going to be making shape on the left. So let's say we'll just have black take that away. It says now you can exchange A for B. C Senti's got to respond. You start jumping out. You're making shape. You're making eyes. Really, it's just a lot of options. It's hard to kill this kind of group. So that was meaningful. Also, this idea, it's hard to kill. This is another way of saying we don't know if it will kill or not. Yeah, we don't. Goes too hard. We don't know. Of course, we know in some cases. Since we don't know, what do we know? Well, we get a real sense of, oh, what are you joking? I have so many options, I'll be fine. Are you positive? Well, I'm not positive. I mean, I haven't read every variation out, but just look at all those options. That doesn't mean they're not wrong. That doesn't mean they'll survive. It means that the experienced player who has chosen this path is like, oh, this should not be too difficult. Okay, hopefully that I rambled there. Okay, black plays here. We do you see that little eye where it's not a real eye yet, but that little area one, we have 4 stones around a small area. That's likely going to be an eye. And we did this in Sente because next move we run out. Okay, he stops us from running. Now, this to me is the hard part. Let me rephrase that. To me, the next move is the most obvious thing in the world. The reason it's hard is because how do you come up with the move? So it seems to me the move most people will think of is to start running out. The problem is, where are you going? Oh, I'm going to run out. Really? Where are you going? There's no way out. Well, if this direction we're running into black stones, which is basically the case, we want to run to the right, which is A. Again, we don't want the heavy move. We want the light move. And just for fun, if black says, I'm surrounding you, then you can see we're getting out. So it's because we now have backup, and I'll just finish that up for you. See how we're getting out here because we have the backup stones? Okay. So black's going to back off. I did ask him about B. A's the strong move, B's the move that can be cut. And you could tell he would prefer B. Now, he didn't say this. What he said was, if you have a backup plan for the cut, if you have a plan that you're confident in, sure, this gets out faster. But if you don't, just pull back to A. I like that. It says, clearly, white B leaves a cut. If you have a plan, go right ahead. If not, don't. It's like obvious, and yet it's nice to hear it in clarity. Okay, boom, black comes around. We jump out. Black, we're getting behind enemy lines. Living with B and C, notice the one purposeness of this. We have lived and have gained an extra 2 points. What a horrible idea. Oh, but I lived. Well, this is all true, but don't we wish you could do more? So this is a very slow move. Let's hope you're not in a position where you have to play a tiny 2-point move just to survive. It says rather a move like A is more efficient. You're going to live naturally. You'll run out. You'll create new options. And A is that kind of move. And it's a fairly straightforward thing. Okay. Black went ahead and cut. We have a natural Atari, which is a helpful stone in our area. And now we're back to D. There's the slow living move. You need to notice that there's no cut here. We ladder it. So that's not an issue. So we'd rather not live if there's something else to do. And we're right at the end here. A, B, and C are the other things to do. He said, blah, 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 blah. You might even sacrifice the corner. I'm like, what was that? You might even sacrifice the corner? What are you talking about? He said, well, if you find a way where it's big enough. He said it so casual. I'm like, well, to me, that corner's pretty big. He says, yeah. I said, well, show me just a fantasy play out of what that would look like. So he went here, which is about to cut and kill black. Black saves the cut. Sorry. Start to connect out. Now, next move, we can live in the corner. So black kills. Well, white just killed area A, lived with B, virtually took the entirety of area C. That's plenty big enough. So I was really glad that he showed that variation of what it might look like to sacrifice the corner. Now, he's not saying, oh, sacrifice the corner. No, he's saying we're looking at things that are flexible. A might lead to sacrificing the corner, might lead to other things. Point being that A is interesting and positive. B, very similarly, interesting and positive. C says, what about just white C? Still on the wrong button here. There's just a lot of, if black plays this way, all of a sudden the bottom of the board is really getting weak for black. And if black plays this way, the left side of the board's really getting weak for black. The point is that it's just there's options everywhere, and white has maneuvered his living. He's kept his options open, and there's options everywhere, and they're all positive. And that's what you're looking for, not the readout, not the conclusion, but rather positive, excellent paths. Okay, I think that's enough. Hope it was useful to you. Certainly was to me. And we'll see you all on the final one. There's only 3 in this series of this part of the lesson. Okay, everybody. Talk to you later. Bye.